Hey guys, so today I wanted to talk about specifying workflow inputs. As you can see, if I can get this Loom thing out of the way, I made a post about this late November, and things have changed with N8N. Like pretty much the frameworks are still the same, but little tweaks and little parameters and little configurations have changed. So a YouTube video from 3 months looks completely different to my YouTube videos now. This post from 2 months ago is pretty different from how you do it now. Well, you'll see. Anyways, specifying workflow inputs. So what I'm talking about here is when we're calling a workflow as a tool from a main agent. In this case, we have a main agent that's calling a tool that I built out called Send SMS, and it's its own workflow, right? As you can see right here, what I'm doing is I'm setting workflow inputs. So when the agent figures out, okay, I need to use the Send SMS tool, it's doing that after it's scraped other information, and it knows that it needs to send over screenshot one and screenshot two, and then finally it's sending over like a response down here. So this was really helpful because we were getting image links, and we wanted the image links to be passed to the Send SMS tool, so the Send SMS tool could actually send those images over to the user. But before specifying this as an input, the agent would sometimes chop off the end of the URL, or it just wasn't always consistent as far as sometimes it would send one of them but not the other one, and we always needed to get both. I guess in this case, if there was only one, it wouldn't send over a second one, which was fine. But if there were two, we needed both. So we were able to specify that, and this was typically done within the within this right here where you're calling a workflow as a tool, and now it's not there. Another thing that has changed is that we no longer have there used to be a field to return, and then it would say like you could set what it would be looking for. So that's why whenever I end a workflow and I set that field to response and then set the response, it's just out of habit because I always set the last thing to response. But now you can see it says the tool will call the workflow. The workflow will I don't know, and look in the last node for the response. So it no longer has to be called response. It doesn't even have to be a set node. You could just have, I think you pretty much could just have the agent be done, and that's technically the last node. And then the main agent that called it would get that response. So anyways, just wanted to show that. But even though this video has some outdated stuff as far as like this, it's not really outdated because I'll show you exactly how we do it. This one's still a good one to give a watch. It also goes over like the flow of like this agent that's, as you can see, it's being sent this information. And then this is like sort of the larger agent that we're also sending inputs here to this SMS specialist. We were sending over, where'd it go? Phone number, availability, name. I think there was maybe one other parameter, but still a good video to watch. So anyways, what we're doing in this one is we just have a simple agent that I set up to just show how this works. Typically when I build out a workflow as a tool, I just make it in a separate workflow. It's easier to keep things organized, and then you're able to reuse those workflows. That's how we have a really modular approach when we're building this type of stuff. But anyways, in this example, I just wanted to show this and also show that you can, if you wanted to just throw a tool down here just to keep yourself on one page rather than flipping between tabs. How you do that is you do the workflow ID rather than, you can choose from a list, and you can, that's interesting that it changed to, because that's what this workflow is called. You choose from a list, and then you can choose the actual workflow, of course. But in this case, what we need to do is choose by ID, which is the ID right up here. So we have our cloud environment in this case, and then you workflow/ID. So you're just going to grab the ID and paste that down there. And while you're testing this thing, it's not going to show, like you'll get the red spinnies up here, but you won't get them down here where it's actually calling it, but it is calling it. So I'll show you guys that. Anyways, we're having this tool add a contact, and it's sending through, and then we want it to put into Airtable. So let me just show how this works. And keep in mind, this one is an example with not specifying workflow inputs. So can you add Mark Johnson to the database 333-444-5555 and mark at example.com. And it's freezing in here, so my fingers are cold and I get bad at typing. But anyways, right now it just sent over information. It ran twice, which is interesting. So we'll have to take a look. And as you can see, nothing happened here. But if we clicked into here, if we clicked into here, we could click on view sub execution, and that would take us to a new tab with this workflow execution. Or we could just click on executions. We can see this is the main one that we just did that took 5.78 seconds. And then these are the small ones. For some reason, they ran twice. So we'll look at what happened here. But this, as you can see, it actually did run. The query it got was name, Mark Johnson, phone. Okay. So it ran twice because the first time it only sent over name and phone, and then I'm assuming this one it's sent over an email, name and email. Okay, so that's interesting, and this is why we want to define what it's sending over. So as you can see, if you don't define, it's always going to come over as JSON.query. If we look at the JSON, so it comes over as JSON.query, but what we want to do is be able to feed into Airtable, and then we want to just have these mapped already out as JSON.name, JSON.email, JSON.phone number. Although in this case, we have to do it. We can't just do JSON.phone number because there's a space between the E and the N. So we have to put the square braces. That's just how you sort of signify that. But here's the value in this. So typically you would get this query, and then maybe you'd have like an AI node right here, like a message model, say, hey, look at this, and then figure out what's the name, what's the email, what's the phone number, and then put them into the following parameters: name, email, phone number. That way they consistently feed into here. You could also run this into an agent that would do that automatically if we connected Airtable as a tool and then use the from AI functions. But then you'd have the agent or the OpenAI message model node using credits. It's just an extra API call. But yeah, so we can do this without, I guess we'll be using from AI in here, but we're already, anyways. Let's get back into the editor, and now let's talk about how we actually change that workflow input. And as you can see, it just created 2 blank rows over here because it tried to send something through, but there was no information in the parameters. So how do we specify the workflow input? How we do that is by looking at the actual trigger that's capturing the information. So right now it's going to be accepting all data. We can use JSON, or we can do fields below with an input UI, which we can pretty much just do a name and the variable type. So what we're going to do here is name, and I have to name these the same that I named them in the Airtable tool. So I believe it was name, email, and then phone number with a space. These are going to be also, I believe, case sensitive. So we've got name, email, phone number. We'll save that. And then if we click into this guy, we see workflow inputs. So from here, that's where we can use the from AI function to determine based on the query what the AI should fill in this stuff with. So in this case, obviously, these are going to be pretty easy. We'll just say name. Make sure these are expressions. Otherwise, if you paste this in here and you just change this to email and you think you're good, you're not, because it's going to send over this explicit, query. So expression, and then finally we make this one expression, and this one we're looking for a phone number. Okay. So we'll save that, and let's test out that query again. Can you add Mark Johnson to the database? Oh my goodness. To the database, we're just going to go 333-444-5555, and then Mark at example.com. Okay, so we should be watching on this left side. It should be able to pop in automatically, even though we won't see the execution. So there we go, Mark Johnson, Mark at example, and then 333-444-5555. So yeah, let's look at the execution real quick. This is the one that the agent just did that took 5.5 seconds, figuring out what to do, figuring out what tool to use. And then this is the tool that we were calling down here at the bottom of the workflow. And as you can see in the input, what we got over here was, instead of JSON.query, we got this split into 3 fields, which was name, email, phone number, auto-populated like that. And then the beauty of that is that we can feed that straight into this tool. So every time the AI agent input is going to split these up into 3 fields and then automatically put them into here. So if we did a different one, like, can you add Jimmy to the database? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Jimmy at gym.com. We'll see what we get on this left-hand side. Jimmy at gym.com. We got the number and we got his name in there. So that's how it works. It gave us a nice response as well down here. As you can see, this is how it broke stuff down. So yeah, I hope this one was helpful. I hope that, it's a setting that it has a very specific use case, but it can really be a lifesaver. So hope that one helped. Thanks, guys.